there. Welcome to episode 4 of From Peaks to Properties with me, Amy Clark, and
Chris Mogensen, real estate agents with Royal LePage Solutions here in Canmore.
we are going to take you for a walk around the Cougar Creek area. We're currently standing on one of their bridges, and we're going to try to take you all the way up to the new dam that's been built to help mitigate flood risks along this creek.
So come along with us. We'll tell you a little bit about what's been going on in town, a little bit of what's to come, and what's been happening in our market.
Hi there.
So why don't we kick things off, Amy? Tell us a little bit about what's going on, upcoming events in the Bow Valley.
Right, so did a little bit of research on that, and the one that I found the most interesting was the Big Bear tournament that's going on again at the Nordic Centre.
What kind of tournament is this?
It is a national disc golf tournament, which
I didn't even know they had that.
I didn't know that it was a national sport, so I thought that was quite interesting. It does close off various trails at the Nordic Centre, and it's happening at the very end of May, the 30th and 31st. So if you're planning on getting that mountain biking stuff started early, then you'll want to look at closures for those dates up at the Nordic Centre.
It just goes to show the flexibility of the Nordic Centre and how it caters to so many different types of athletes, and that the Bow Valley in general, to think disc golf. Now we've got some disc golf tournaments that are being held on a world competition level.
Yeah, who knew? Happening right before this Big Bear tournament, we have your typical Bow Valley excitement happening at the ski hills. Why don't you tell us about that?
We got it's May long weekend. Both Sunshine and Lake Louise are having their annual slush cups. Now, if you haven't been to one of those before, don't know what it is, Amy avoids them at all costs. The ski hills, they are busy, but it's a huge party. It's a closure for the season as we come into the summer months, and then we're going to shut down until next winter. Big party. You've got DJs, music, and a last chance to go enjoy the ski hills. So that's coming up, like I said,
end of the
May.
Slush Cup is the competition to ski over the slush water and not fall into the slush water. And you have to join to be able to compete in that. You come down the hill really fast, and then you go across the water. And typically people are in like costumes and things like that. And whoever makes it across, like, gets to win stuff.
It's a big family-friendly party at the ski hill with
a
whole bunch of other obscene things that happen.
And it's like super busy, which is why I typically avoid that day.
We talk a lot about different events that go on in the Bow Valley all throughout the year. A lot of people, they like to take part in these or want to find out more about them, but maybe you're somebody who can't afford a full property, whether it be a weekend residence or full-time one in Canmore. What kind of other options might there be for somebody in that situation who wants to come and experience some of these things in the Bow Valley, but just doesn't have the budget for that big ticket home?
Have you heard of Canmore's fractional listings?
I very much have heard of Canmore's fractional listings.
I actually have a new listing out currently in Silver Creek Lodge. And basically what a fractional property is, and there's quite a few videos on my personal YouTube, Amy Clark Realty, that actually dive very deeply into fractionals, so feel free to check those out. But to give you kind of like a shortened version of that, is that you are purchasing a property usually for under $200,000 that allots you 12 weeks a year, which works out to 1 week per month on a fixed rotational schedule. So every year those weeks shift by a week of usage. And if you can't can you take a vacation 1 week every month?
Not necessarily. No. I would love to, but that's not really
a realistic thing to think of, right? So when you cannot vacation in your vacation property, you add it to the rental pool on site, and you can earn revenue from having it in the rental pool. And what I've seen typically is that you should be able to use 5 weeks of your year for yourself, and the other 7 weeks will pay for the rest of the costs of that fractional ownership. So your condo fees, which cover, in Silver Creek Lodge, cover everything, including property tax.
And they do have a few different buildings that offer these fractionals. They're not all throughout, and it has to be pre-zoned for that.
Yeah.
I think what's important for people to know too is that you have different options where some are sold. You've got maybe a quarter share where it might be 12 weeks a year. You've got 12 shares. You've got different options that, based on how much you're able to use it, will then also affect the price. But what's important for people to know is that they can't mortgage these properties.
They can't. So usually people are using like home equity lines of credit, or other various ways of financing that kind of property, unless you have $200,000 sitting in your bank account. But if you do, then buy a full ownership unit because you'll make more money off of it. But when it comes to pulling from a HELOC, that's what I see the most to finance these types of properties.
I think what's also important to know for somebody who is thinking about, hey, I can use this property now and then when I do go on vacation, but rent it out otherwise. We've spoken before about taking rental properties outside of the rental pool and self-managing, or having an external management company take care of your rental for you. That's also not much of an option with fractionals.
The only building that allows for self-management in fractionals is lodges of Canmore, and they only have 2 units that are fractionalized, which offers 8 possibilities to purchase in lodges in a fractional property, and they do not come on very frequently. Solera, Sydney Street, and Silver Creek do not allow you to self-manage your short-term rental. And personally, I think that it would become a real hot mess real fast if people were self-managing.
That would make sense. If you own a property that's shared with 4 X amount of other people, trying to coordinate that would be very difficult.
It would be very challenging.
But as an overall, this gives a really good opportunity and option for somebody who does want to experience some of that Bow Valley, whether it be the events or just your casual vacation, to come in here and to be able to own a property that is significantly less costly, where it's almost, I kind of compared them a little bit to sort of like a timeshare.
So the biggest difference between timeshare and fractional ownership is that with fractional ownership, you actually have your own title to your own property. Your quarter interest within this specific unit is not shared with anybody else. So you have property title, unlike a fractional property where you do not have property title. And that's a big distinction and an important thing to remember when you're looking at the difference between the two.
And all assets too, it's important to be known, all of the assets and expenses and taxes that are associated with these properties are also all divided up as far as responsibility between the 4 owners. Absolutely. Or 6 owners, or whatever it may be.
But the biggest part is that if somebody defaults on their condo fees or whatever, it doesn't fall back to the other 3 owners. That because you have separate titles, you have separate responsibilities.
That's some great information. So for anybody out there who might be curious on finding out more, say, hey, that might be a really great option for me, you can definitely reach out to Amy or I to find out for more information on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, speaking of those, how many of these properties are on the market right now? We should maybe just dive into stats and find out what, if any of these, are available on the market today.
Well, you're the stat man, so give it to us.
We are now into April, which means that our spring market is in full swing. If we go back to the month of March, we had 45 sales in March, 17 of which were apartment style properties. And of those 17, 8 of them being short-term rentals. We did have 6 sales of your detached single-family homes, which sold last month. Only a couple of which being under the 2 million mark. And the rest are comprised of townhomes and duplexes, your semi-detached, things like that. It is important to note that of the 17 apartment style and specifically the 8 short-term rental units, they all sold within a month. Is that right?
Yeah, under 30 days.
Less than 30 days. So that definitely means there's high demand. And again, with only 7 being on the market, generally speaking, when they do come up, if they are even remotely reasonable, they kind of tend to go pretty quickly.
And you know what? Sometimes even the unreasonable ones go less quickly, but they go.
We did talk about fractionals a little bit earlier. Of the 8 which are currently for sale right now, I believe one of them is yours.
One of them is my listing, absolutely.
We get all the information up front here now.
So what's really great about the listing I have is that it's the only 2-bedroom lock-off property available. We didn't talk about that when we kind of dipped into fractionals, but with Silver Creek Lodge, which is where my listing is, you have the option of getting a 1-bedroom, a regular 2-bedroom, or a 2-bedroom lock-off. And with that lock-off, it's kind of like a shared hotel room door, if you've ever been to one of those, where there's a door on either side that lock. And if you want to use both sides, then you open those doors. If you only want to use one side, then you keep those doors locked. And what that does is it provides a lot more flexibility in the short-term rental market, because the property can be rented as a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom or a hotel room. Also, if you're using your week and you only need one of your bedrooms, you can use one side and still generate revenue by renting out the other side.
That's some really great information.
Yeah.
So we spoke about this earlier. How many weeks a year are you able to use this property for?
In Silver Creek Lodge, it's typically 12 weeks per year. So they have a fixed 1 week per month rotational schedule. So I was saying, like, for my listing, it is the last week of every month. So it includes Christmas week this year. Next year, it will likely be the first week of every month.
And are you able to share with us the price?
$185, which is inclusive of GST. Yeah.
All right. So
yeah.
For anybody who's interested in, like we spoke about, potentially having one of those vacation properties that you can jump off to without breaking the bank, and then otherwise be able to rent it out when you're not using it yourself, reach out to Amy over here. She's got some options.
I'm your
for you.
gal. Yeah. Short-term rentals and fractionals are kind of the biggest sales that we do here in the Bow Valley. So happy to help. We'll give you a very quick tour of the Cougar Creek Dam. That is where we are right now. We're right at the tippy top of it. You can see the views from here are spectacular. Chris, do you have any idea how much money they spent on this dam? Do you remember?
Multi-millions and millions of dollars.
Lots of moolah. They spent lots of money, but for a good reason, because we had the 2013 flood here, which was very devastating to a lot of homes. They needed to provide a way to mitigate the risk of one of those floods happening again, which is why they built this great big dam. It also certainly helped with the anxiety and stress around purchasing a house along the creek because of the flood zones that they were in and the damage that happened when that 2013 flood did happen.
I think it's important, though, to be clear that this is, although, of course, to keep the residents safe who are by the creek bed, that 2013 flood, this was a 1 in 100 year event to happen.
Yeah, we had our year's worth of rain in like 48 hours. It was kind of crazy.
Normally at this time of our video, I'd share a little bit about some of the hikes that I've recently done, or different activities and places that you can go and explore. But this time around, I don't have any of that. Why is that? Reason for it being...
Oh wait, here, let me switch the camera around and show them why. Oh, look like this. Chris, your feet are gonna get wet.
Well, I know they're gonna get wet.
Oh,
I don't have a choice.
So basically, the trails right now are not in great condition, even the easy ones and the very frequently walked ones, like the ones that we're on right now. And so usually in springtime, we take a bit of a break when it comes to hiking and getting out and doing those kinds of activities.
That's important just on its own. Again, we've spoke about this before, trail etiquette, where the trails are so muddy, and actually, you know, high foot traffic causes erosion on a lot of these trails that have been set up. So right now, with one, temperature causing really big risk of danger as the snow is melting, is one really big reason to stay off the trails. And then other one is just like Amy just said, conditions are not great and not very pleasant. I know that us walking around here today, my feet are wet. How about yours?
My feet are wet. One thing I'd like to say about the erosion and trail etiquette is that on what we're on right now, this is a man-made trail. We're not worried about erosion. We've chosen our trails carefully. But when you go into like places like the backcountry and stuff like that, that are not packed conglomerate like this is, then that's where you get that kind of trail erosion. Look like this.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of today's video. We've brought you right back to where we started. Again, with our three sisters right behind us. You've been seeing a lot of them today. I don't know if there's anything you want to add into that.
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, as always, if you're looking to buy or sell in the valley, you've got two two people here that are very happy to help you, whether you're relocating from Calgary to Canmore or looking to purchase in Cochrane and move from Canmore to Cochrane where it's a little bit more affordable. You have all sorts of options and we're here for you every step of the way.
So thanks for joining us, joining Amy, myself, and Kit Kat on our walk around today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and hope to see you again next time.
You bet. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.